That was my documentary about the one, the only, Vince Carter. I'm Adrian Ma. The weekend this documentary originally aired on the Sunday magazine, Vince was officially enshrined into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. But a few weeks after that, the man behind Vinsanity received another remarkable honor. He became the first player in Raptors history to have his jersey number retired.
For the first time in this franchise's 30 years.
Vince came back to Toronto to see a banner representing his jersey raised to the rafters of the Scotiabank Arena. To me, as a Raptors diehard, this was beyond special. It seemed like any remaining bitterness about how his career ended in Toronto faded away. An entire arena, an entire city, an entire country came together to pay tribute to one of the most incredible sports figures we've ever seen. And the moment wasn't lost on Vince. Before the jersey went up, he talked to the media about what this honor meant to him.
I mean, it means everything, and the legacy is still growing. And I think, once again, this is the icing on the cake. This is the bow to bring it all to full circle.
When he walked onto the Raptors' home court once again, the crowd gave him a thunderous ovation. There were tears in his eyes as he thanked the fans, not just for this night, but the whole journey. Finally, he touched the banner as it flew up in the air, where it will permanently remain, suspended in the rafters high above the Raptors faithful. The final flight of Vince Air Canada Carter. That's all for Storylines for this week. Today's episode was produced by myself and edited by Michelle Parisi. This documentary originally aired on the Sunday magazine. Storylines is produced by Craig Desson with help from Anna Lazowski. You're listening to Storylines on CBC Radio 1 and on your mobile phone, wherever you are via the CBC News app. Download the app for free and use the local tab to stream us live. I'm Adrian Ma. Thanks for listening.
This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe help to make the season bright. But singing along to Yuletide classics and new holiday favorites is what really makes the holly jolly. CBC Music unwraps the gift of holiday playlists to get you into the festive spirit. From pop to jazz, gospel, folk, blues, classical, country, and so many more. Now available on the CBC Listen app.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're at -6 degrees with light snow over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon, I'm Matt Humphrey. An update from Winnipeg Police on new charges against a couple accused of animal abuse, and a warning: the new details are disturbing. Police inspected several devices seized from the Lord Roberts home of Chad Quebecs and Irene Lima in October. They found hundreds of videos and photographs of the abuse and killing of animals. Constable Stephen Spencer says it's the biggest case of animal abuse he's ever seen.
Quebecs established an exclusive underground black market network where prospective members were required to submit a video of themselves killing an animal to gain entry. Quebecs and Lima not only facilitated the creation and distribution of its content, but also profited financially from it.
Spencer says the pair also had discussions about making child sexual abuse imagery. Police do not believe any children were involved. The couple was rearrested this week and held in custody. The city of Winnipeg is testing shatterproof glass in bus shelters as a way to curb costs. The CBC's Cameron McLean has your details.
Last year, the city decided to test out shatterproof glass in a single bus shelter after seeing a rise in damage related to vandalism. Now the city is launching a pilot project to try out new types of polycarbonate glazing in bus shelters across the city. Public Works Chair Janice Luke says the city spends more than $200,000 a year on replacing glass. Last year, there were more than 300 bus shelters with broken glass. So far this year, there have been 233. There are currently 207 bus shelters waiting for glass replacements. Luke says the shatterproof glass could cost 3 to 4 times as much as regular glass, but it could save the city money in the long run. The pilot project will run for about a year. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Contract talks between Canada Post and its unionized workers have been suspended. The federal mediator says the two sides are too far apart to reach a deal. Labour Minister Stephen McKinnon says he's extremely disappointed, but won't legislate an end to the dispute.
That is not in the cards. It is difficult to envisage a situation where you could find an arbitrator who could adequately cover the issues that are at hand. These are differences of vision that are hard to bridge using conventional arbitration.
McKinnon says he hopes the two sides will review their positions and return to the negotiations with renewed determination to reach a deal. A ceasefire between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah appears to be holding, meaning thousands of displaced people are starting to return to their homes in northern Israel and southern Lebanon, despite warnings from Israeli and Lebanese troops to stay away. That's the sound of people in Tyre, in Lebanon's south, cleaning up debris after returning to destroyed homes. Israeli troops have been preventing people from going back to other areas near the border. The deal gives Israel and Hezbollah militants 60 days to withdraw. Lebanese troops and UN peacekeepers will then start to patrol the area. Ottawa has reached an out-of-court settlement with employees affected by the failures of the Phoenix pay system. The class action suit involved thousands of public servants who worked for the federal government between 2016 and 2020. Many of them were underpaid, overpaid, or just not paid at all. The lawsuit claimed the failed system caused significant hardships and disrupted their daily lives and personal finances. The settlement still needs to be approved by the court. China has released 3 Americans, citizens, imprisoned there for years. One of them had been facing a death sentence on drug charges. 2 others were in prison charged with espionage. The U.S. government had designated them as wrongfully detained. Their release comes 2 months after China freed a California pastor who spent nearly 20 years behind bars. Inuit students living in the Arctic have had to leave their homeland to attend university, but that could soon change. The organization representing the Inuit has unveiled plans to create a university on traditional lands. Juanita Taylor explains.
A university on traditional Inuit lands has been a dream since the 1990s. Today, Inuit Teperi Kenetami, or ITK, shared its latest plans and news of a $50 million donation by the MasterCard Foundation. Natan Obed is the president of ITK. He says Inuit Nunangat University would be the first Inuit-governed and Inuit-owned university in Canada's Arctic.
It's to create an opportunity for a particular type of student who wants to live and study in Inuit Nunangat, and also an Inuit institution where all of the values and the governance is a part of Inuit society. Obed
says ITK will need a total of $160 million to make it a reality. ITK has asked the federal government for $50 million. The rest of the money will come from private donations, philanthropists, and other levels of government. The goal is to welcome the first students in 2030. Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Yellowknife.
And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, you can head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, or you can use the CBC News app. Taking a look at the forecast for the afternoon ahead. In the big city, we have a chance of flurries in Winnipeg with a high around -6 today and a light breeze. In the Wheat City, periods of light snow in Brandon with a high around -10 degrees. Dauphin, you're seeing light snow at times as well, a high around -10 as well. And in Flin Flon, a high around -10 with light snow. Thompson, you're seeing a high of -8 this afternoon. You're seeing periods of light snow as well in Thompson. And in Churchill, you're looking for a high of -9 with a chance of flurries. Right now, you're listening to CBC Radio 1.
Good afternoon, Manitoba. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. I'm Corey Funk. Good to be with you. Well, coming up this hour on the show, it's the threat that's reverberated across Canada. A 25% tariff posted on social media Monday night by U.S. President Donald Trump. Coming up on our call-in conversation, we want to hear your reaction to what this tariff could mean for you. Are you worried about inflation? Could it impact your business or just your life in general? We want to hear from you after 12:30. Plus, this half hour on the show with a $750,000 funding shortfall, an addiction recovery services nonprofit is having to turn to people turn people away who need help. That story coming up on Radio Noon. But first, the province is adding 800 hip and knee surgeries at Selkirk Regional Health Centre. It's a promise made last week in the throne speech. We reported on it earlier, but now they've made it official. Health Minister Uzoma Asseguara made the announcement at the centre this morning, and their announcement to cutting wait times is adding more staff. That is their solution. Minister Asseguara was joined by Dr. Ed Bushell, Provincial Surgery Specialty Head at Shared Health. And you'll hear Minister Asseguara speak first.
I am so happy to be here with all of you today. I'm thrilled to be able to announce that our government is adding 800 new hip and knee surgeries here at the Selkirk Regional Health Centre. Now, that is a huge announcement that our government is proud to make, standing with our partners, with the experts, with leaders who we have been working with from day one in office to make sure we have more surgical capacity here in our province. And for me, coming back to Selkirk always feels a bit like coming home. I worked in the Interlake and in Selkirk for many, many years, and I'm honored to be able to come back and provide such an exciting day for residents of Selkirk and folks in the Interlake. So what are the details of this announcement? Well, our government is providing annual funding and the staff to operate space here at Selkirk Regional Health Centre. Each one of these 800 surgeries will mean one less Manitoban waiting in pain. We know as a government that cutting wait times, reducing wait times does not have to be complicated. You don't need to send folks out of province or out of the country to get the essential surgical care that they need and can get and deserve to get right here at home. What we do need is more staffing on the front lines. We need more allied healthcare professionals. We need more nurses, support staff, physicians. We need more capacity. And that is exactly what today is all about. This is a big step in the right direction. As I said, it's always great to be back in Selkirk. Our premier, the premier and I had the opportunity to be in Selkirk for a listening tour stop. We heard from so many frontline healthcare workers, their ideas, their hopes for healthcare, their concerns, and their solutions. What we heard from those folks on that morning was invaluable, and we took those concerns, ideas, hopes, and solutions very, very seriously. And so it's been wonderful to be able to come back and reconnect with folks. I have to say that the folks working in Selkirk are incredibly passionate frontline healthcare workers. They are dedicated. They share their hopes and their ideas with us with real courage and vulnerability and strength. That's what we saw at the listening tour stop. It's what we continue to see when we meet with folks here in this community. It's those conversations that drive announcements just like this. Now, we know that doing the work of fixing healthcare is going to take us time. This situation that we're in our healthcare system did not happen overnight. It was years of cuts and damage to the healthcare system. And so we're not going to fix things overnight. But as we continue to take steps like this, we know that we're moving healthcare in the right direction. We're making more capacity here in our system for Manitobans, and we're delivering on the healthcare promises that Manitobans are counting on us to do. We were here just a few months ago, as many of you might remember, to announce the transitional care unit beds, and we're making a lot of progress to build more capacity. So in addition to that 15-bed transitional care unit, we have also added 30 fully staffed medicine beds and are funding 7-day-a-week discharge. That is a tremendous amount of new capacity in a pretty short amount of time right here in Selkirk. Today's announcement is a real step forward, and we'll continue to do the work of fixing healthcare, in building a strong healthcare team across Manitoba to benefit all Manitobans, no matter where they live.
Next, we'd like to have you welcome Dr. Ed Bushell. Dr. Bushell is the Provincial Surgery Specialty Lead, and he is a surgeon.
Thank you very much for having us here. This is truthfully a very, very exciting landmark day for healthcare in our province, for surgery, for orthopedics, for the collaboration with a team from Selkirk and a team from Concordia, and the collaboration that we move forward with in surgery programs where we use data-driven decisions to support the healthcare in our province. We have a waitlist management system now that the government has supported, rolled out. We know who's waiting. We know people are waiting for their hips and their knees, and we know they're waiting too long, and we know we need to do better. But it's always how much, where, and rightfully the government needs to ask us as leaders, where do we partner? Where do we move forward? So we've been able to communicate that to them now. We're making data-driven decisions for the healthcare of the entire province. We went to the government listened, the government responded, and now we're here. Selkirk is a hub, but Selkirk's a hub for the province now. And healthcare in our province is better. 800 more hips and knees is an astronomical number to increase at one site per year, ongoing. In our province, we have never had the ability to deliver the needed hip and knee arthroplasties on an annual basis. So every year in the past, we were adding more people to a wait list. More people were going out of province. With this announcement, with our increased capacity at our other hospitals, we will now nearly hit 7,800 joints per year. That is what our population needs us to do on an annual basis. That is landmark for our province. We had the data that said this is the numbers. We presented it, we made our case. We're utilizing the resources that exist in our province, and the government is supporting this because it makes sense for our health care in our province. We will deliver what is needed on an annual basis for arthroplasty. We will not add people to our wait list anymore because we will have the capacity. That's fundamental for surgery. This is how we're moving forward in arthroplasty and in all parts of surgery. Wait lists should not exist. This is a prime example how the province, our leadership in surgery, and our government are working collaboratively together to make sure no one is left behind in surgery. I can go on and on about how great a day this is for us. But working together, this is it. This is as good as it gets.
That's Dr. Ed Bushell, Provincial Surgery Specialty Head at Shared Health. And before that, you also heard Health Minister Uzoma Azagwara. Now, just some interesting data to give you a bit of a snapshot where Manitoba is at as of 2023 for wait times for hip and knee surgeries. The clinically acceptable wait time for people to get their surgery in Canada across the country is 26 weeks. Now, across Canada, the average is 62% of Canadians got their surgeries within that time. In Manitoba, it's 50% as of 2023. That's a fun fact. So 50% of Manitobans got their hip and knee surgeries before that 26-week benchmark. The province that got the lowest was PEI with 28%, and the highest was Ontario with 77%.
Manitoba's the kind of place that draws you in. Every day it's growing, it's changing. Just when you think you've got it figured out, though, there's something new to understand. I'm Marcy Marcuso, host of the CBC Daily Podcast. This is Manitoba. I've covered the news from the rail line in Churchill to the border in Emerson, and it's talking about the local stories that help us understand this place. That's what This is Manitoba is all about. Find it on CBC Listen or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
And today on This is Manitoba, we're talking all about the tariffs, the impact that it's going to have on our province. And we're going to carry on that conversation today after 12:30. We're going to have an expert on to join us as well. We're going to open up the phone lines to hear from you. What impact do you think a 25% tariff on all goods entering the United States, assuming it comes true, could happen to you? Are you a business owner hoping to maybe export to the U.S., or you already do? Or what, you have to change tack? Are you worried? We want to hear from you. We'll open up the phone lines after 12:30. Also coming up, a local addictions recovery organization is facing a $750,000 funding shortfall and asking Manitoba municipalities, including Steinbach, for help so they can stop turning people away. We're going to bring you that story right away. But first, let's take a look at your current conditions across the province. Brandon right now with some light snow at the airport. You're sitting at -12. Up in Churchill, cloudy for you right now, -9. Dauphin, similar case, cloudy, -10 right now. Flin Flon at the airport, light snow, -13. Gillam, light snow as well, -8. Island Lake at the airport, cloudy, -7. The cold spot right now in Manitoba is Roblin right now. You're sitting at -14 as well. The hot spot, Victoria Beach, -4. The Paw at the airport, light snow, -12. Thompson at the airport, light snow, -10. And Winnipeg at the Forks, mostly cloudy, -6. Well, Adult and Teen Challenge of Central Canada is facing a $750,000 shortfall, and it's looking to Manitoba municipalities, including Steinbach, for support. The Addictions and Recovery Services nonprofit provides a full range of addictions treatment and recovery services, but the shortfall means they have no choice but to turn people away. And what many people call, the height of an addictions crisis. Daniel Imond is the CEO of Adult and Teen Challenge Central Canada. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What does the need look like across the region right now, particularly here in Manitoba?
It's overwhelming. There's not a day that goes by that we don't get a new call or a new family dealing with some kind of mental health and addiction crisis. And, when we talk about this shortfall, coming out of COVID, we knew that we needed to expand our services to provide a full range from like that first point of contact where your family's in crisis and you don't know what to do. And we're there, we're ready. And we have community outreach offices and community support workers and mental health first aid responders that are ready to help families in that crisis, and to providing intervention services and trauma informed care. We are providing, complex trauma support, and also going into like community-based support groups for families and for individuals struggling with addiction. To our, what we're most well known for at Adult and Teen Challenges are, long-term in-residence recovery programming. And, that the beds are full. Actually, when we talk about being able to help more people, we can't staff. We don't have the funds to staff what we need. And so that's where the biggest shortfall is, particularly in Steinbach. We received a new facility 2 years ago, and it has the capacity for up to 30 beds. But right now we're only operating it at 15 because of the staff. And we just really need to acquire more support.
So what's causing this budget shortfall then, this $750,000 shortfall? Is it a lack of government funds, lack of donations, or is it an increase in resources needed? Like what got you to this point?
It's riding out the storm. Really, it's COVID happened, the problems skyrocketed. And so we expanded our services, and we've petitioned different areas of funding. We've expanded our social enterprises, which we run, like our super thrift stores, which have kept us going. Our super thrift stores and our vehicle donation program has kept us going. But really, we aren't receiving the funding that we could be from municipalities, from operating funding from governments. We're not receiving that yet. And so we're working hard to build the relationship and to communicate with the different members of governance on what the needs are and why they should support us. But it's a very, very discouraging and tedious process to acquire funding.
So you're talking,
and yep.
So speaking of trying to acquire that funding, you were talking about that facility in Steinbach. You've actually sent a letter to the Steinbach City Council outlining the urgency of the situation. What did you say in that letter, and what was your ask to Steinbach City Council?
Well, so when we moved into the community of Steinbach, we just listened to the community and the overwhelming needs of families, particularly parents. And so we just started with providing support groups. We couldn't find a location. So the local hotel offered us a room to use to start support groups. And we realized very quickly the overwhelming need. So we talked to a local commercial realtor, and they found us a small office space. And we started there. And then we really realized the need there. And a local church, Southland Church, had a facility that they weren't using, and they basically gifted us that building to start providing the services that we provide. At that time, we talked to the Steinbach City Council about their support, particularly with this new facility being zoned in a certain way that requires a lot of property tax, like almost $40,000 a year, which is a salary, really, for property tax for a not-for-profit that's serving the community, not earning any. It's not a for-profit. So we're having to raise taxpayer dollars, that are paying taxes to pay the property tax back. So we started with petitioning the city just on exempting us from property tax, like the Winnipeg city has. Our facility downtown Winnipeg has exempt us from paying property tax on our facility on Edmonton Street because of the work that we're doing. So we started petitioning with that, but they turned it down. Steinbach City Council turned it down. Thus, the last now third year, paying between $30,000 to $40,000 on property tax on our facility that's helping families recover from addiction in the community. So that was the first ask. Then the second ask was, okay, well, if you need us to pay the property tax, could you at least contribute to, our revenue, the requirements of paying salaries and bills and all that to help the families of the city? And that was the petition, really was that we had a shortfall because we've had to expand our services. We need to hire new staff. We've opened up a small thrift store, which is helping, but it's not covering the shortfall of what we need in the community. And there's been some amazing local businesses that have stepped up and are giving every month or giving, very generous donations. But that being said, that's still not covering the costs and the needs of, operating a very large recovery facility. They just, they put you in a box. What I've heard from the Steinbach, they didn't even, we got a letter back from Steinbach Council saying that they're not taking action, or they're not even going to consider it. They put you in a box, and the one answer I got is, if we do it for your not-for-profit, we have to do it for all not-for-profits. And my answer to that would be, well, then you should look at considering doing it for all not-for-profits, or look at a way of governing that supports the work that is actually saving the taxpayer dollar and bringing health and wholeness to the community.
If this, because I know we actually had you on a year ago, and at that time I think you were facing a $500,000 budget shortfall. This year, $750,000. If this continues this way, what does this mean for your organization if nothing changes?
We'll have to cut our services. That's the bottom line, is we just have to cut expenses. That's the way I think in the business world it works. Like, you have to run. We have to run this organization like a business as well, where you either increase revenue or you cut expenses. And
would that include leaving Steinbach?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would just say the amount of people that we can help. Right? I had a local business owner call me from Steinbach that supports us. He owns a car deal or runs a car business. has an employee, a mechanic that needed treatment, recovery. And, we had to put him on a waiting list in Steinbach. And he says to me, Daniel, like, the facility has like 30 beds. And I said, yes, but we only have staff to treat 15 people. If we had the funding coming in, we could hire more staff and utilize the facility fully. So again, it's complex. It's not just because you have a facility that then you can fund it. So we have a fantastic facility in Steinbach, but we need more support to staff it and to fill it.
Well, Daniel, I'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
That is Daniel Imon. He's the CEO of Adult and Teen Challenge Central Canada. For more information, you can visit their website, teenchallenge.tc. Well, time now is 12:26. We have time for a bit of music. Here's Noah Dirksen with his cover of Macy Gray's I Try.
Changes and fear. When will they go from here? When will they stop? I believe that fate has brought us here, and we should be together, babe. But we're not. I play it off, but I'm dreaming of you. I'll keep my cool, but I'm feeling. I try to say goodbye and I choke. I try to walk away and I stumble. Though I try to hide it, it's clear. My world crumbles when you are not near. To be free, but I'm just a prisoner of your love. And I may seem alright and smile when you leave, but my smile is just a front. It's just a front. I play it off, but I'm dreaming of you. Keep my cool, but I'm feeding. I try to say goodbye and I choke. I try to walk away and I stumble. Though I try to hide it, it's clear. My world crumbles when you are not near. Goodbye and I choke. I try to walk away and I stumble. Though I try to hide it, it's clear. My world crumbles when you are not near.
That's Winnipeg's Noah Dirksen with his cover of Macy Gray's classic, I Try. And I know a lot of Canadian officials right now are trying to say goodbye to that 25% tariff that Trump has proposed for his first day of the presidency on January 20th. And coming up, we are going to be opening up the phone lines after 12:30 after the news to hear how you feel about that potential tariff. It might impact your business, your life. We're going to have a expert in supply chain management join us as well to help break it down. That's what's coming up after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. At 12:30, we're at -6 with scattered flurries over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon, I'm Matt Humphrey. Today, there are new disturbing details from Winnipeg police who have laid charges against a couple accused of animal abuse. Police inspected several devices seized from the Lord Roberts home of Chad Kabix and Irene Lima in October. Constable Stephen Spencer says they found hundreds of videos and photographs.
More than 75 animals were filmed or photographed being tortured and killed. None survived. In some of these instances, there was also a sexual component to the offense.
Spencer says police believe the couple established an exclusive underground black market network. Prospective members were required to submit a video of themselves killing an animal to gain entry. Spencer says the pair also had discussions about making child sexual abuse imagery. Police do not believe any children were involved. The couple was rearrested this week and held in custody. In other news, the city of Winnipeg is testing shatterproof glass in bus shelters as a way to curb costs. It's part of a pilot project, trying out new types of polycarbonate glazing in bus shelters across the city after seeing a rise in vandalism damage. The Public Works chair says the city spends more than $200,000 a year on replacing glass. Last year, there were more than 300 bus shelters with broken glass. So far this year, there have been nearly 250, and just over 200 bus shelters need glass replacements. The pilot project will run for about a year. And as you've been hearing, responding to President-elect Donald Trump's threat of an across-the-board tariff on Canadian goods, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is holding an emergency meeting today with Canada's premiers. In the virtual meeting, Trudeau will be asking the premiers for what he calls a united Team Canada response. But opposition leader Pierre Poilievre wants more. He says the United States needs to be reminded of how important Canada is to their economy.
Canada purchases more goods from the United States than does the entire European Union, despite Canada's population being 1/15 the size of Europe.
That's Poilievre in the House of Commons last night during an emergency debate on the Trump tariff threat. The debate was called by the Conservatives and the New Democrats. And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Back soon.
That is Matt Humphrey at our CBC News Desk. I'm Corey Funk. And before we talk more about these tariffs, which I know a lot of people are talking about these days, we want to talk a little bit about the weather. And Riley Leitchuk is in to have a look at that. What's going on?
Still under this thick deck of stratus cloud here in the Red River Valley. That's what's making it so gray out there. But what's also making it incredibly hard to forecast.
Okay. Why? Okay. Because you can't look up and see what's behind the clouds?
Incredibly hard to forecast some of this cloud just because there's still, as we've seen through the morning hours and through the overnight period, still a little bit of moisture up there still that wants to come down. So we've seen a little bit of light snow, a little bit of freezing drizzle. I know some fog back to the west, although it's been a bit brighter and a bit clearer into the Westman region. But certainly you can tell looking at temperatures where this thick stratus deck has been just sitting over us for the past several days. -6 in Winnipeg right now, -12 in Brandon at the moment. So you can really tell where we have that change in conditions through the Red River Valley, northwestern Ontario, stuck under this cloud cover right now, -13 in Swan River. Thompson's at -11 at the moment. Still a few flurries through the Westman region at the moment, and a little bit of residual energy still in the Red River Valley that is coming down as snow. At least right now, it's kind of tapered off here downtown, but skiff of snow on things first thing in the morning. I am hopeful that as we get through the afternoon hours, particularly the further south in the province you go into that south central part of Manitoba, say through Morden Winkler, even Killarney, I think you have a good chance at least seeing the sunshine for a little bit this afternoon. You know, I would like to say that we could see a couple of sunny breaks here in Winnipeg. I don't know if that'll materialize just because of the cloud deck that we're sitting under here, but I remain hopeful that maybe we'll see a little bit of blue sky this afternoon here in Winnipeg, although mostly cloudy sky. Through the overnight period tonight, another little bit of instability rolls through. Maybe some light snow again tonight, maybe a couple of flurries. Nothing really more than just a skiff of snow, if that, overnight tonight in the Red River Valley. That really moves off into the rest of the day Thursday, another mainly cloudy one. Again, maybe a few sunny breaks, peaks of sunshine through the afternoon hours, and rinse and repeat as we get into the day on Friday as well. So mainly cloudy skies today, -5 in Winnipeg, -11 the high in Brandon. Dauphin looking at a high of -9. A better chance of some flurries back to the west again today. Into tomorrow, we have that chance of flurries in Winnipeg in the morning. Our winds pick up as we get through the day as well, northwest 20 gusting to 40. I think we have a better chance at seeing the sun on Friday once again with a high of -12, -11s, -12s right through the weekend into next week. And I do have Monday at a mix of sun and clouds at the moment.
A little sun would be nice.
I know. I'm starting to miss it at this point. It feels like it's been forever since we've had a sunny day here.
I think it's fair to say it's starting to get weird. It's starting to get a little weird.
It's there.
Yeah.
It's just covered.
Yeah, that's the killer part. Okay, thank you very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
That is Riley Lachuk, our CBC climate change reporter and weather specialist. Time now is 12:36, and it's time to open up the phone lines for our call-in conversation. As you've been hearing in the news pretty much nonstop for the past day or so, President-elect Donald Trump said Monday night he'll slap a 25% tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico once he takes office in January. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the First Ministers held an emergency meeting today that ran, he had held an emergency debate that ran late until last night and try to sort out how Canada should handle the tariff threat. They're trying to figure that out. But with a deeply intertwined supply chain between Canada and the U.S., costs to Canadians would be felt across the country. And here at home, Premier Wab Kinew says it would send Manitoba into a recession. So what's your reaction to this possibility? Well, what are you most worried about? Maybe you have a business that exports mostly to the U.S., or maybe you were planning to start exporting to the U.S., but maybe you're like, I don't know, do I do it now? Or are you just generally more concerned about a possible recession? And to help us unpack what this could mean to us, Javed Faiz Abadi joins us by Zoom. He's assistant professor of operations and supply chain management at the Asper School of Business at the University of Manitoba. Hello there.
Hello.
Hi.
It's good.
Yes, yeah, good to have you. And good to also welcome callers. And I realized I forgot to give the number away, which usually helps on a call-in. 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. You can also text us, 204-588-7355. That's 204-588-7355. Wendy's standing by to put you on air. Well, so first of all, Professor, what was your reaction to the threat of a 25% tariff on Canadian goods?
Yeah, so obviously that was a big sort of disruption for the trade as you mentioned, the integrated supply chains in North America, including Mexico and Canada. And I think still a lot of people are trying to sort of absorb the news. And I think we would see much more reaction in a different sense from different sectors of economy. But I think it was a big disruption. And in fact, basically after the pandemic, I think we should be be ready for more sort of these disruptive events going forward, which was not the case previously when we were having sort of a stability in the economy. So hope it's not going to be having too much sort of negative impact on the sort of vulnerable part of the economy. So.
Our Premier, Wab Kinew, says it could send us into a recession. Do you think that's hyperbole, or do you think there's actually something to that possibility?
So I believe the impact is going to be severe. So essentially 75% of the Canada export goes to U.S. And I think it's important at this time to sort of see in more detail and nuanced analysis what are going to be the industries at risk. So basically what we know at this time that auto part manufacturing in Ontario, oil and gas in Alberta, aluminum and agriculture sectors are the sectors in the industry that probably are going to feel the impact much more significantly as others, because these are the industries that mostly export to the U.S. More than that, I believe there should be much detailed analysis and understanding of what is going to be the impact in these sectors in terms of the type and the size of the firm, which in each sector. Essentially, we have sort of large corporations in each of these sectors, as well as small and medium enterprises. So obviously the impact is going to be felt much more for SMEs as compared to the large corporation. I would be happy to kind of lay out more detail on what would be the specific impact for SMEs supply chain specifically related to this trade disruption.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd love to get some more details. And we also want to hear from listeners as well. Maybe you work in an industry that exports a lot to the U.S. We'd love to hear from you. What are your concerns? Or you run a business, or you're just a person worried about what the future could look like? Give us a call, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. Yeah, let's dig a little bit deeper on this here, Professor. So in terms of small, medium-sized enterprises, you're saying SMEs, in terms of here in Manitoba, what sectors worries you the most in terms of the impact that a tariff could have on them here?
Yeah, so I think at this point, obviously, there might be some sort of long-term thinking, short-term thinking, and medium-term sort of solution. But I would like to kind of highlight the immediate and sort of short-term immediate impact of the tariff-related disruption. So specifically talking about working capital and holding cost of the inventory. So these tariffs are going to have significant impact on inventory holding costs. As a result, these SMEs would need sort of very effective management of their working capital. And this is the time that obviously we need to kind of think about supply chain financing solutions for those SMEs. So to dig deeper into what I mean by holding cost, inventory holding costs, and the impact on working capital. So just think about now the behavior on the buyer side in the U.S. So basically, when they expect that anytime soon the tariffs are going to be implemented, they might at this time behave to purchase in a large amount, and that would increase the level of inventory in the supply chain. So that inventory and related receivables, which are part of the working capital management in the supply chain, should be financed somehow by the either buyer and the supplier. So that depends obviously in the contract in the supply chain, but that's one impact. The other sort of impact that we might be able to see is essentially the reconfiguration of the supply chain in the medium term. So for those SMEs, they might want to sort of reduce their dependency on export market. Obviously, the U.S. is the closest geographically export market for Canadian firms. They might want to sort of readjust and reconfigure their supply chain and export to a geographically more distant location. So that essentially, again, means from inventory holding costs and working capital standpoint, means, again, more inventory would be carried in the supply chain, and there would be more need for managing working capital. And the question would be, again, who is going to finance that working capital? How financial institution could get involved and help these SMEs to sort of survive in that situation? The third one that I can sort of explain is the currency exchange rate fluctuations that is going to increase the cost of export for those SMEs. And when the cost of export is going to increase, that would increase the inventory holding costs. As a result, more requirement for working capital and the question of financing the working capital. The fourth factor, I have two more sort of factors to talk about, if you don't mind. So the fourth one is the whole change in terms of changing the inventory management practices from just-in-time that was kind of established in supply chain in the past to sort of move to just-in-case. So moving from just-in-time to just-in-case inventory management, again, it implies carrying more inventory and having more inventory holding costs and the requirement for working capital that would be needed to finance somehow. And the last part is essentially these trade-related disruptions are going to increase the lead time and delivery time in the supply chain. When delivery time and lead time in the supply chain are increasing, essentially inventory time or the inventory is going to increase, holding costs are going to increase, the working capital need would be higher. And again, the question would be who is going to provide that finance? And that is the sort of picture that we might want to sort of get involved the financial institution to provide different type of supply chain finance solutions.
We've got Eliana on the line. Hello there.
Good day. How are you?
Good. How? What are your thoughts on these potential tariffs?
Well, my first is more of a diplomatic one, and that is, if there's a trade agreement in place, isn't that the place that these tariffs should be discussed and not just an impromptu announcement by one of the parties in the trade agreement. But beyond that, my suggestion is if these unexpected tariffs are going to be put in place, why does Canada not look into how do we increase trade amongst our provinces and territories, so locally, which would also cut down on greenhouse gas emissions, hopefully, and all the shipping of things. The shipping would perhaps be less. And also to look to, which is contrary to what I just said, but to also look at other international markets where such tariffs don't exist. So to do both kind of strategies, to look at putting our eggs in other baskets.
Aliana, thanks for that. Professor, I'm curious what you think about that. So let's say, I guess if this tariff actually goes ahead, we've businesses have, less than 2 months now to prepare. Is that enough time to find new markets either locally or internationally in any sort of meaningful way? How tough of a pivot would that be for small, medium, or large corporations here in Canada?
So I think in the short term, it may not happen, obviously. And I like the idea that was mentioned by Ali. I think that was a great idea to redesign the product and change the business models for those SMEs to sort of rely on a more domestic market or before thinking about basically other market. Because again, if the supply chain is going to reconfigure sort of dramatically, so there would be a need, a lot of implications on the inventory related costs and also the working capital need for especially those SMEs. I think in the long term, we might be able to obviously see a big shift in the reconfiguration of the supply chain in the region. But in the short term, I believe there should be some sort of immediate solution to get those vulnerable part of the economy to get moving and get basically not to survive essentially, because this is sort of big disruption for the trade in this region.
Is this a bit of a wake-up call for Canadian businesses, or like our Canadian economy in general, that we've maybe put too many of our economic eggs into one basket, that is, the U.S., could this maybe be a bit of a sea change? Be like, hey, maybe we do need to diversify our exports a bit more.
Yeah, so I think that's basically the whole argument that has been put forward after the pandemic, that probably the efficiency narrative may not be a right narrative to think about the economy and businesses and supply chains, and we might need to think about resiliency narrative instead. So in resiliency, obviously, those diversification, sort of redundancy, creating different type of markets, and sort of thinking beyond and managing interdependencies in the whole, in the economy and in the supply chain in a more sort of resilient manner would be a very important factor. But again, a lot of institutions are having a lot of pressures on the economy and the firms, so efficiency still matters, but I think there should be some sort of path forward to change that narrative and sort of think about more resiliency sort of way of thinking about the whole management of the firms, enterprises, and supply chains.
And thinking even just to our neighbors in the South, I mean, obviously, President-elect Trump sees this as a good thing for Americans. But what are the downstream effects if this tariff comes into place? These Canadian goods make their way across the border with this, and they pay that extra 25% making their way across the border. What could that mean to everyday Americans on the other side who go ahead and go on to buy these products? Would they be paying more? What could this mean for them?
So definitely, the cost of goods sold are going to increase for the consumers in the U.S. So that there is no doubt. But I think the argument that was made that probably in the long term there would be sort of more job creation based on this domestic and protection sort of policies. But I think in the short term that the consumers in the U.S., they're going to feel the pressure and the purchasing power are going to be impacted. But so I think yesterday I was just watching CNN that there was a poll that some consumers in the U.S., they were in favor of this tariff increase. And probably they are thinking in a sort of long-term perspective that probably in the short term they might see some pressure, but they see hopeful in the long term, probably. So
In terms of tariffs in general, their use as a a tactic to get things done politically, this very well could just be a political ploy, right? A bluff, if you will, to get Canada to do more things like increase its border security, like Trump wants to see. How much should businesses kind of prepare for the fact that this might just be a bluff, or should they always kind of prepare for the worst in this case?
Yeah, so I think these sort of policies are not going to be new for many parts of the world. I think that Trump's administration has been in the office in the past, and many of the policies are going to be effective. I guess there should be definitely preparation for the worst case scenario, because again, we never know what's going to happen. And again, in the past, that was something that was most of the sort of rhetoric that was mentioned also was implemented. I guess from business perspective, there should be definitely a very sound preparation for these new circumstances.
In terms of if we do want to still hear from you, Aliana had some great thoughts, and we do want to hear some of your thoughts on these tariffs. How might they impact you? But also maybe you have some more, economic input like Aliana had, and some ideas. Give us a call, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. Of course, we're talking kind of big picture about corporations, businesses, the impact this tariff could have on them if it's implemented. But what about everyday Manitobans? Could we see an impact day to day, starting January 20th if these tariffs come into place?
I think definitely there would be in the long term some immediate, some sort of long-term impact, but in the short term, it depends on how those vulnerable firms are going to be supported by Canadian financial institution. As I mentioned, the impact of the working capital and the inventory holding costs and some sort of supply chain financing solution might mitigate the impact in the short term, and the consumers in Manitoba or other part of the country may not be sort of feeling the impact severely. But I think it depends on how basically here we do the preparation in terms of supporting those vulnerable SMEs which are exporting the product to the U.S.
Well, thank you very much, Professor, for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
That is Professor Javed Faiz Abadi. He's an assistant professor of operations and supply chain management at the Asper School of Business at the University of Manitoba.
This winter, help us make the season kind by supporting Harvest Manitoba. I'm Vince Barletta, CEO of Harvest Manitoba. All it takes is one can of food, $1, or even 1 hour of your time. Join CBC as we donate a day of programming in support of Harvest Manitoba December 6th. Find ways to give to Harvest Manitoba at cbc.ca/kindmb.
Coming up to the end of Radio Noon, but we do have still some time for a song. Sarah Kay is a musician from Lake Helen First Nation in northwestern Ontario. And though young, she's used to touring, believe it or not. Kay would accompany her dad, a counselor, speaking and singing in schools when she was just 12 years old. And from her new EP, this is Sarah Kay with 25.
Feels like time goes by slowly, then out of the blue you're 25. They ask, when do the kids come? But I'm just a big kid inside. I can't believe they want us to have it all figured out by 18. 'Cause looking back, I didn't taxman tells me to keep all of my expenses organized. But I'll go a full day without eating before I even realize I can't believe they want us to have it all figured out by 30. 'Cause looking round, I'm thinking I'm just as confused as everybody. Slow down, take your time. Wish someone had told me to slow down once you blink. You're 25 to like a moth to a flame. Take it, but an shiny thing. But life's got so many paths. So how do I know which one to choose next? Oh, slow down, take your time. Wish someone had told me to slow down. 'Cause once you blink, you're 25.
From Lake Helen First Nation, that was Sarah Kay with 25. You can check out her new EP. It's called Madodzi. Well, that is a wrap for this edition of Radio Noon. Big thanks to everyone who put together today's show. Marshall Hodgins, Wendy Parker, Travis Peterson, and I am Corey Funk. I'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, though, hope you get out and do something you love with the people you love. Coming up on CBC Radio 1, Writers and Company. Have a good one.